Everyone. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited that we're here with you this afternoon. My name is Jillian Copeland, and I am the founder of Main Street Connect, located in Rockville, Maryland. And it is my great honor and pleasure to be here with you guys today. We are going to go through our lessons learned, our research and evaluation, and share with you our Main Street model of affordable, inclusive housing and membership, and hopefully spread some joy and love while we're here today, too. I think we can all use a little bit of that. Today's presentation, we are going to talk about what Main Street is. We're going to share our mission, approach, and ambition. We are going to talk a little bit about partnerships, but we're going to do a deeper dive into partnerships on July 7th with NTACT. So we'll talk more about that, but you'll get a little view of some of our important essential partnerships, including our partnership with the University of Maryland. And we will share our research with the University of Maryland. We are so lucky today and for the last couple of years, to have worked with Amy Diagati and Ellen Fabian. They are co-presenters with me today, and they'll be joining around, I don't know, slide 12 or 13 or so. Amy is the senior faculty specialist at University of Maryland in the Center for Transitions and Career Innovation, and Ellen Fabian was the principal investigator along with Peter Leone, who is not on the call today. But Ellen has been instrumental in helping us conduct this research, or conducting the research for us. And she is with the Department of Counseling and for higher ed, and I believe special ed for the University of Maryland. So thank you, ladies. I will be introducing you a little later. We're also going to share the evaluation of our membership and our programming, and we're going to talk about some challenges and lessons learned. So off we go. For those of you who don't know anything about Main Street, I'm going to sum it up in 3 things. The first is living. We are accessible, inclusive, affordable living in Rockville, Maryland. I'm sitting right here in this beautiful space. This is our apartment building, the Main Street Connect office. This building above me, there are 70 rental units. We are going to talk about the units in a little bit. 75% of the units are affordable. 25% of these units were set aside for adults with disabilities. We currently believe we have 52 people out of 150 who live at Main Street who self-identify as having a disability. This building, these apartments are absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to share some of the pictures on a future slide with you. The second thing of Main Street is our community. The second big, maybe secret sauce of Main Street is our membership-based community, which provides opportunities for connection and stimulation of mind and body, and really a sense of belonging, which, as we all know, is really a critical piece, a part of thriving in life today. We're going to share with you our community space in which we conduct a lot of our programming. We also are around the community as well. So that's really the second part of Main Street that we're really excited to share with you today. And the last big part of Main Street is this movement of inclusion. We believe that everyone should have a seat at the table. There should be equity, inclusion, and kindness, and dignity and respect. And that's what we're doing to just push forward, push through, and hopefully one day we won't even have to use the word inclusion. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through the slides. Main Street Connect, this is our mission: to create dynamic opportunities through affordable, inclusive housing and community engagement so people of all abilities can live their best lives. Our approach is quite unique, and we're hoping that will permeate through this disability space and all spaces, actually. And our approach is really bring your own independence. One of our parents, our super users, came to us and said, hey, while you're doing this, you might want to think about allowing people to bring their own independence and not providing too much for them. And that way people can rise in a different way. And that's exactly what we're seeing. We do not provide any one-to-one services here at Main Street. We are not a direct service provider. We ask people, whether you come to live at Main Street or you come to join our programming, you bring whatever that is for you that allows our programming or living to be accessible for you. And while our building is highly amenitized, it's We've used very thoughtful and methodical key design features to make things accessible. If you need someone to help support you to get through a program, or you need a physical accommodation, or you need a sister, mother, brother, caretaker to live with you to allow you to achieve independence, then you bring your own independence with you, and then you bring that person with you. We do provide a level of supports because we have several Main Street Connect staff and several program facilitators to allow you to enjoy an experience and be a part of our community, but yet that one-to-one support is not what we offer. And we feel that allows people to have independence and choice. This is big. It's really, really big. This is our ambition. And this is actually one of my favorite pictures from our Flapjacks and Friends event way back in 2019, I think. And so we want, and I think I touched on this before, but we want inclusion to be the norm. We want, way back in the a part of our country that we probably don't want to remember, people use the word segregation often. That word we don't use anymore. Maybe sometimes we should, but we don't. And in 1954, that all changed, right? We want people to provide opportunities and purpose and connection for everyone in our community. That should be accessible for everyone. And so we don't have to keep saying, hey, let's be inclusive, let's be inclusive. We want everyone to use the designs that we are offering, our universal design, whether it's in building a building or providing programming for people. We want there to be affordability and people to use best practices. We are modeling behaviors and spaces and creating new expectations for people. And we believe this really will allow inclusion to permeate. In addition, the last part of this is data research and evaluation, which we feel is also really important to make inclusion happen. You know, why are we doing this? And what does the data say? Well, guess what? You're going to see what the data says today. And the data says some really good stuff. And maybe that is what helps everyone in our community learn and understand, build an awareness of why this matters. And it's so important. This is some pictures of our beautiful apartments. I'm going to talk about the living, which again is the first piece of Main Street. If you guys remember back from slide 1, Main Street apartment living is quite spectacular, I have to say. I don't live here, but my son does. And his apartment doesn't usually look this clean, but for the picture's sake, it looks pretty good. We have studios, 1s, 2s, and 3 bedroom units here. We have priority discounts for, as you can see, first responders, teachers, people in healthcare and government employees. And we also have a fee-based community coach option. We have a community coach that lives in the building and 1 or 2 that do not. And they are here to support, not that one-to-one support. Again, that BYOI is really critical here, but to provide supports. So they facilitate sessions and conversations around conflict resolution, roommate issues, safety and preparedness. And they have allowed our Main Street residents to move into Main Street with probably more of a seamless transition into independent living, and provide them with these kind of extra scaffolding of supports when they need someone to talk to, or, you know, a reminder about something, or some reinforcement around something that they're a behavior change, or something that might be challenging for them. I do want to bring up something that is a little bit pathetic, but it is a fact, a staggering statistic. That is, the day we opened the call lines for Main Street apartments for people to rent, we had over 11,000 calls the first day. So I can't see you guys, and I wish I could, but I would imagine your face kind of looks like this, right? Because, or some of you may already know that these are these staggering numbers. But 11,000 calls shows the real desperation out there, that this is a real need. There isn't enough affordable housing, as we know. There's a shortage globally, but when you add the disability piece in it, there's even less. So we don't have time to go too far into this, but I did want to mention that, as you know, and most of you are on the call, you understand this transition space, that this is a huge need. And we are only filling this tiny little gap. And we're hoping that we can build more Main Streets, and that you all and other people you know can build your own main streets, wherever that is on your main street, wherever you live. We have a couple key design features that I just want to share. You can kind of maybe see some of them in here, but things like quality lighting and ceiling fans and electronic key fobs and movable islands that you can see in the picture down on the left. So if you have mobility challenges, you can move an island around or even take it out. We have safety mechanisms built in for fire prevention, some chrome finishes, and granite countertops. And just for those of you who know anything about affordable housing, this typically is not what affordable housing looks like. Our ground floor, which we're going to also show you, is again not what affordable housing looks like, but we really believe in light, bright, beautiful spaces, especially for a population who have not been provided this before and have been othered. So we are saying to you, we see you, we value you, come and live here, feel safe, feel pride, feel worthy. And then it's really a beautiful thing. And the people that live here are quite beautiful too. And so meet our Main Street residents. Brownie, you can see, is the little puppy, and Brownie lives here. So Brownie's kind of our mascot, I think, even though we have a couple dogs that live here. People who live here identify, they have identified that they are between ages 25 and 34, or at least 76% of them. 70% had some experience living away from home before. Some of that is like my son, who actually went to a boarding school for a couple months. And so he had lived away from home. It wasn't a great experience, but that's not for today. We have approximately 52 people that live here that have disabilities or self-identify. I think I shared that, out of 100 people who live here. So these are our beautiful, fabulous, amazing residents and their big smiles. Here is a testimonial from Takara Hargrove, and Takara is a courtesy police officer, a courtesy resident who lives here at Main Street. She keeps us all safe. She walks the building. She makes sure our doors are locked. If anybody's in dire need, which I have been before while I've been here, a couple emergencies have occurred, and I call Takara, where are you? We need you. And that's been a great thing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our public safety partnerships in a couple slides. But I'm going to read you, just in case some of you, cannot. I'm going to read you her testimonial, which says, whether it's the warm welcomes from the front desk staff or the inviting gestures from the residents here, it's been so wonderful being a part of the Main Street community. This hasn't been the perfect place to call home. So we love Takara. I'm going to move into our second part of Main Street now, and this is our membership and the beauty of membership. A bunch of things to say on this slide. Some of them are right here for you. We have a 10,000 square foot community space and the Soulful Cafe, which is in the front. And actually that picture of our Main Street folks, there's some staff in that picture too, and they are actually in the cafe. And so Main Street's, this community is huge. It's being a part of a community, and I feel so honored and humbled actually to be a part of this community, and find a lot of purpose and passion here myself. And I think I can speak on behalf of some of our other staff. And we love being here. And every day we get to see programs happen at Main Street and in this community spaces and beyond, in other accessible spaces within our community. We have 240 members of Main Street. 39 of them live in the building. And out of the 240 members, and they're divided between different types of membership, which you can see here: activity, professional, we have wellness members. Out of the 240, 201 don't live here. They come in to be a part of the community and be a part of our 20 plus programs that we offer. We have Zumba, we have yoga, we have sunrise strolls, we have boxing, we have Bake with Sharon, and lots of other educational, cultural programs around sports and art and music, and just things that we find that we are passionate about, that we are interested in, that bring people together. And I'm not going to forget to mention the social pieces. Tomorrow night we have a tie-dye party. We had we all walked to Rockville Town Center and enjoyed live music a couple weeks ago. We had a pool party last week. So just really ways to bring people together and share life and share kindness and friendships. We have virtual and in-person programming, and we have hybrid. We have members from 12 different states. We use always universal design and best practices, and our facilitators are phenomenal. And that's really what makes our program so rich and filled with quality. So here you get to hear from our member island.
Free to be you and me. I really enjoy, doing activities with Main Street and meeting new people virtually. The activities have been very fun for me, and it gave me life during the time of the pandemic, because during the pandemic, people can get very bored, depressed, or isolated. So having Main Street events and activities to attend weekly, it makes me feel a little bit happier in my day.
Anybody want to dance along? Free to be you and me, right? One thing that I would like to mention is I think that's really part of the beauty of Main Street, is that you are free to be who you are. And it is a very non-judgmental, I get a little choked up sometimes with this, but a very accepting space. And again, a gentler, kinder community. And it's really a beautiful thing. So now I'm going to kick back in. These are our partnerships that are so critically important to Main Street. This is the meat and potatoes and why it works. We've had different partners through different stages of our evolution. We started with partnering with just building Main Street as a community. And while we did that simultaneously, we went out to raise money to build our first building, Rockville Main Street 1. And you can see the building here. It's really beautiful. And we went to the state and the county and our Developmental Disabilities Administration, and they were all fantastic and really believe in this mission and in building inclusivity. And we were really honored to partner with them and receive tax credits and other grants and funds from our stakeholders, from these stakeholders. Our programming, we had over 100 different individual and organizational partners. Some of them are our public safety workers, others are facilitators. We have nonprofit partners, volunteers, social workers, people who just want to be a part of Main Street. Our safety partnerships, our public safety partnerships have been really extraordinary. As many of you probably know, sometimes there's a fear of working or helping people with disabilities, and sometimes there's a fear from people with disabilities for our law enforcement. And so bringing them together to get to know each other and understand each other's communities gives us this safe and protected feeling and comfort with each other. So we have a community coffee, a community cup, we call it, every other month, I believe now. We were having it every month, but because of COVID, it's every other month, and this is actually a picture of one of them. And Officer Crow, who's on the right there, we actually have a smoothie named after him in the cafe. And Officer Crow also just pops into Main Street all the time, and he's a wellness member. So I believe he came and did a boxing class with us recently, which was amazing. And he is a mainstay here at Main Street, which is really a nice perk to come in and just see his smile when he's here. So we also have Officer Lori Reyes, who runs our inclusion department for Montgomery County Police. And she comes in every Monday and has office hours here. And people can come down and they can talk to her about things they're worried about and fears. And she reminds them of safety tools they can pull out of their toolbox and reminders to be safe in the community. We also have partnered, thankfully, with the University of Maryland, who will be sharing their information with you in a couple minutes. And also with a group called Sharp Insights, which is a local developmental evaluation firm, and Who's for Data, which is I believe, a volunteer, maybe a nonprofit, maybe not, but have helped us tremendously, both of those firms, understand the importance, best practices around evaluation and around sharing that information. So you'll probably see some of those slides coming up. So, and this is probably one of them. When we embarked on really building Main Street and understood how expensive it was going to be, actually the blood, sweat, and tears and all the equity from all the different stakeholders and family and friends and partners. And Julie, who is actually in the other room with me here, and she'll pop on in a couple minutes, Julie was Julie Ryan Silva, the first employee of Main Street. And she came to me one day and we sat around the table. That's where we worked at the time, my kitchen table. And she said, Jillian, what if this doesn't work? We're spending all this time and we are so intentional. We want to improve the quality of life for people and create a sense of belonging. And what if we spend all this money and we build this building and we create all these partnerships and we do all this stuff and our intention and our efforts don't get the outcome that we're looking for and that we want to achieve. And I thought, wow, she had heard a podcast on NPR and it was about an after-school program that had been running for years. And finally, somebody did some research on this program and they found that not only was a program not helping the marginalized communities that it was intended to help, but the results were pretty negative and it was hurting these folks. And we thought, oh my God, that can't be us. And so we reached out to University of Maryland, and that's when we developed this partnership. And thank God that Julie brought that to me. I don't think I would have ever thought about why that was so important, but here are all the reasons why it is so important. And especially when you're going to hear from them in a minute. But these are all the reasons, right? Policymakers need data and funders want data, grantees, did I say that right? Grantors want data, we're the grantee, hopefully. We wanted it to inform our programmatic decisions and real time so that we can change things because we are really here for everybody else to better the community, not just for what we presume to think will help the community, but actually what is helping our community. And so we are finding that these measures of evaluation and research are not only critically important, but they're also matching our insights and observations and what we see every day. So I'm going to turn it over. You're not going to hear my voice for a few minutes, so you're welcome. I'm going to turn it over to Amy and Ellen, and they are going to share exactly what they found. So I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to hit the slide, and Amy and Ellen, it's all you.
All right. Great. Thank you, Jillian. This is Ellen Fabian. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. Hard to follow Jillian, especially since now we have to present numbers and so on, and that's never as much fun. But we'll try to do it quickly and just hit the high points. One thing I want to say that I just thought of while Jillian was talking is that it's so unusual, researchers like us, evaluators, we're brought in to evaluate community programs or their interventions because they need evaluators because they're writing federal grants or something like that. But this was so much different. I mean, to initiate for Jillian and her team to reach out to us was really because they wanted to know, not because it was a requirement. So I just thought of that and I thought, well, that's really great. That's a whole different thing. So our team, Jillian and her team reached out to us. Our team consisted of the University of Maryland, myself and my colleague who is going to speak very shortly, Amy Diagati, as well as I think Jillian said, Peter Leone, Yewan Lee, and some fantastic graduate and undergraduate students. In a different way than how we usually do evaluation, which was great too. It's a good model. The team worked collaboratively with Main Street staff to design the evaluation. And what we decided to do was to conduct a mixed method study with multiple phases that would include both quantitative and qualitative components. In other words, we decided to administer surveys consisting of items from other surveys and other scales that looked at quality of life. And we also, and maybe more importantly, we also decided to do some in-depth, kind of to delve a little deeper through some qualitative components. And I'll talk a little bit about those. And then my colleague Amy will talk a little bit more about them as well. So this slide that you're looking at now illustrates the quantitative study. And what we call it was a single group pre and post test study. And what it aimed to do was explore the impact of residing in Main Street on residents with and without disabilities and their families on their quality of life and subjective well-being. Participants who participated after informed consent, in this study, were assessed just prior to their decision to move into Main Street, and then about 6 to 7 months later, I must remind everybody, as if we need reminders, that this occurred from fall 2021 through fall 2020 through spring 2021. And as everybody knows, that was the time of COVID. That we have to kind of consider that in the context of a lot of the findings that we had, as well as in some of the fact that we had 57 residents and family members who were in the baseline survey and only 44 in the follow-up survey. And that wasn't because people didn't want to participate. They really, really did. But COVID delayed their decisions to take the move to move out of their family home or something like that into Main Street. So that's what basically attrited or reduced our sample. We used, as it says, surveys and interviews. We used items from 3 surveys, three standardized instruments that measured quality of life. One was, and some of you may have heard of this, some may not, one was called the World Health Organization's Quality of Life brief version for people with disabilities. A second was the Quality of Life Inventory, and a third was called the Personal Wellbeing Index. I'm going to present the findings from just one of those, which is the World Health Organization. But if anybody's interested in getting their hands on any of those other quality of life measures, because they're a little hard to come by, and we did a lot of careful assessment of what's available in the field, particularly for people with disabilities, I think you could probably contact me or Jillian, and we can help you out there. So the next slide, then, if you could shift to the graph. Next slide. Okay, good. So what we did, as I said, we're just presenting the results from one of those measures, which was the quality of life, the World Health Organization's quality of life. And what we did was we had a pre and a post test. We used a statistical analysis called paired sample mean scores to measure differences in the participants between their baseline, which is right before they moved into Main Street, and 6 or 7 months after that. So as you can see, and as the graphs clearly indicate, even though, and those of you in the audience who are researchers will understand this, even though our study was really underpowered because our sample size was so small, we were surprised to still find statistically significant differences in some of these domains that we measured. Now, interestingly, the quality of life scale, the overall scale, has both a generic, a kind of overall, how do you rate the quality of your life, as well as 4 separate domains. And those domains are physical health, psychological health, social relations, and neighborhood or community satisfaction. So on 2 of those 4 domains, and each of those domains consisted of several items, on 2 of those 4, as well as the overall quality of life rating, we found significant differences pre and post. So we thought that, again, given small sample size, given sample attrition, we thought that that was a pretty powerful, impactful finding, if you will, about the impact of Main Street on people's quality of life. And just a couple more words about what comprised those domains. So psychological well-being included items that measured positive feelings, it measured self-esteem, measured personal beliefs, measured cognition, learning new tasks, and neighborhood or community satisfaction measured things like a sense of freedom, of safety, and of the opportunity and the ability to participate in community activities, as well as transportation. And as I said, there were significant differences on these scales within the groups. Remember, I talked about the 3 groups, and those were residents with disabilities and their family members, as well as residents without disabilities. But the sample sizes there were really too small to present. So this is a slide with the overall significant differences from pre and post. The next slide. The next slide gives some of the results of the second research activity that we conducted. And this was a brief structured interview that we conducted both at baseline, again at follow-up, and the structured interview protocol asked people, both residents again and their family members, about decisions they made in moving to Main Street, about the feelings and the impact that it had on their lives after they moved, and the overall impact that it had both on the family as well as on the individual resident who was living there. This enabled, the reason that we did this part of the second part, the quantitative and now the qualitative aspect, is this enabled us to dive a little deeper and to kind of elaborate, to help us elaborate on some of the quantitative findings, particularly as it influenced aspects of the quality of life of the participants in our research study. In this analysis, some major themes emerged, and these included things like the importance, and they really kind of go along with what Jillian was saying earlier about the vision and the vision of Main Street and what they try to achieve, because some of the themes that emerged from the qualitative data had to do with the impact of Main Street on people's community participation, on their inclusion in activities, and especially for parents on informed choice and living independently. Some of the quotes on this slide that you see in front of you illustrate some of these aspects, and other quotes that illustrate some of these other aspects are in terms of social inclusion. A number of residents, this summarizes what a number of residents I think thought, that they love Main Street because it gives them just the opportunity to hang out with friends on a casual basis. It would also give them the opportunity to meet new friends within the building as well as outside the building. Residents and their family members also commented in these qualitative interviews on independence and choice. For example, one resident said at Main Street, he can choose what he wants to do and no one tells him what to do. Another resident described living there as really awesome. There are activities and everyone has been so helpful. Parents, as I said before, pointed to the opportunity for independence. For example, one says, I think our daughter feels more freedom, more flexibility to do things without having to just interact with us. Parents also pointed to the option for their adult child to acquire new skills while they were living at Main Street, as well as appreciating the community aspect of their Main Street experience. As one parent summarized it, I think it's been a really safe place. It's a good place for him now, having friends, being able to walk out and take part in the community. It's so important to everyone's life. So those were some of the findings from the qualitative part of the first two aspects of this study. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Amy Diagati, who's going to talk a little bit about the family case study.
Thanks, Ellen. Yeah, so we wanted to get a little bit a deeper sense of what was going on and delve in to doing a little bit of a multiple case study. So we wanted to do extended interviews with residents and family members after they had moved in. So again, we did Zoom interviews because of COVID, and we interviewed 3 to 4 months after resident actually moved in, and then another one about a month after that. And some of the topics that we were asking about and just having, deep discussions about were, first of all, what was the process involved in making the decision to move into Main Street? What was that process for the resident? What was the process for the whole family? Also looking at, what was the prior history, if any, of independent living, and how did that help in that decision-making process? What were the family attitudes and perceptions of Main Street? And then what were some of the perceived challenges and benefits to Main Street? So we recorded and transcribed every single one of these interviews, and each one was about 45 minutes long, roughly, split into 2 for each family. Those were coded, and then we sort of did a report for each case and then across the cases. So some of the major themes that emerged, a big one was finding community. And that was, during the interview, it came out as that was kind of a pull from the beginning for a lot of these families, was this promise of inclusion, because many of these residents had had some prior experience in independent living, but without any community. It was just a place to live. And they were kind of excited about the option of having a place to live that really focused on community and inclusion and had social events. And even, in the beginning, it was all virtual, and still the residents talked about how many options there were for virtual. And the families saw a lot of this community as offering social supports again for the resident moving in. Jillian talked a little bit about that bring your own independence. And that was another theme that came out. They had the option, to exercise the appropriate level of independence that they needed. So some brought in, some paid supports from the outside, some purchased Main Street supports, and a lot of them just talked about what their long journey was toward independence, and how that they were able to build and sort of customize exactly what was needed for each resident because of this model. The other one obviously was accessible, affordable, and integrated housing, which is a need that far outweighs the supply out there. And really that internal and external accessibility. So all the community engagement that occurs internally through that Main Street Connect was really important. Location, public transportation, proximity to conveniences. I mean, it is located right in the heart of Rockville. So you walk out and go across the street and you're in, the town square area, which has a lot going on. And then there's also those internal, Jillian was talking about construction features to make things accessible, a lot of universal design, and then just general safety. So this was really something you talked about. They also talked about how it's difficult to navigate affordable housing, and there's all these complex eligibility criteria and processes and overwhelming paperwork that does occur, and that everybody talked about that a little bit in order to make it happen, but that was part of the process. So the real implications here, which you can see up on this slide, and these are sort of the components of Main Street that have been shown to improve or enhance that quality of life. Again, location, which is why, and that comes into play anywhere that, when anybody wants to find a place to live, it just often was not an option for this particular population. So this was near transportation. It's near a ton of retail and entertainment. It's really a desired area. And in terms of that transportation too, that's really important for getting to work. So, in order to live in a nice apartment, you have a job. So, talk to a lot of the residents who can get on and get right into DC. If they have jobs in DC or nearby, that means a lot. The physical design, certainly the structures, all based on universal design in both their buildings and the programs. And then of course, the huge community engagement inside, like within the membership programming and at the building. And then again, outside, when you go out and, there's a picture here, they're right down, in sort of the town square, there's all sorts of festivals and farmers markets and events and concerts and stuff that goes on all the time that really makes it easy to become engaged in the community. And then the whole independence and choice, having that option of where and with whom to live, how to build your support structure around you, and what activities to select and what I need to help me do that. It's all sort of built in. So these are all these components that have enhanced quality of life. And then really the big overarching piece to this is the level of collaboration, which Jillian has already hit on, but all the volunteers that come in, all the partners that it takes. And that will actually be a focus too of the second webinar on July 7th on this topic, to talk about how does this all work together. So I think next we want to, you can hear from a resident. So Jillian's going to go ahead and play a video of talking to a resident right there in Main Street, talking about his experience since moving in.
So some of the friends I've met at Main Street, they're really wonderful people. I'd say Bridget, well, I've known her for a while through Special Olympics, but it's really nice that we're all in the same building, And my roommate Matt, he's like a brother to me. It's my roommate, which is perfect. I also think that there's two Justins in this building, so it's pretty cool having another Justin in this building. It's honestly, it's kind of hard to describe. It's like such an wonderful feeling, because the feeling is such a powerful feeling, but it's so wonderful. It's like I'm home, and it's like that home feeling. Happy to be back, you know. Inclusion is life-changing for me because because it allows me the opportunity to really make friends, both non-disability and disability, and that more so than just the friends you make with both communities. That's important, but more importantly, seeing both the community without disability and the community with disability, being interacting so inclusively, so wonderfully, that my hope is that we can be an example for all different parts of Maryland and so on. A classic example of true meaningful inclusion in its purest form.
So I'm Jillian, I'm back, and that was Justin, and he's a resident I just saw him, he just gave me a hug a few minutes ago. He's just on his way back in from grabbing lunch because he's working virtually today. So yes, that is Justin's experience, and I think that many residents and members of Main Street would agree. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our membership and programming, the evaluation around it, and why we feel that is so important. We did work with a private evaluation firm that I mentioned earlier, one of our program partners, and it's called Sharp Insight. And we spent about 9 months with them, our whole team, starting every week we would meet with them, and then every other week, and they really taught us how to do some really important evaluation in an efficient and use an efficient way in using best practices. And boy, did I learn a lot. I still am. And that has been really incredible, because not only did we feel it was really important to conduct research on people living at Main Street, which you heard, thank you, Amy and Ellen, for sharing so beautifully and eloquently. But as Amy said, it's not just about living independently at Main Street. The secret sauce is that we also have this wraparound support and community. So this membership and programming piece is really what we believe to be the secret sauce. And I keep using that word because I don't have a better one for it. So we have conducted, and we created a logic model so that we could have desired outcomes and really truly understand our impact. The evaluation plan is the plan that we use at Main Street, that all staff has been trained on, and that we use, that I'm going to show you in a few minutes, to really track the outcomes to see, are we doing, again, are we meeting our intentions? Are the way we're executing our program, is it exactly what people want and need? And if not, we have the opportunity to pivot. We use several different tools for this, whether they're surveys or focus groups, or even just, I was down at the cafe today and a group was in, and I said, hey guys, how is everything? You know, how do you feel when you're in here? What does your experience feel like? You know, how can we do things that are better? And I think, I really truly believe that the logic model and the evaluation plan and the tools around it are really important, but it really comes from a culture. And we have a cultural mindset here, a philosophy that we are here to improve the lives of people, including ourselves. And how do we do that? We can't just presume to know how somebody else wants to live and what they want to do. We have to ask the questions. So again, this is funded by our operational budget. We made the commitment to actually put this in as part of our funding on our operational budget, so that, you know, people could understand that this is really important, and this is a part of who we are. We actually went to a grantee for it, which was amazing. This is our evaluation and our logic model. And you can see our inputs, our activities, our outputs, our outcomes are all here. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble sharing. Can you just check my power? It says that I'm losing power in my computer, so I'm so sorry, you guys. Let me just plug it in here and see if that's working better. So apologies for that interruption. Our outcomes, really look at those, right? Our members, are they demonstrating awareness, our increased knowledge and skills from being a part of our programming? Are we providing exposure for them for new educational and recreational opportunities? For those of you who know a lot about the brain, we need new experiences. We need to learn new things. This is something that our community hasn't been offered after the age of 21 in most places, when they're finished their post-secondary programming, or they're out of their school and they lose all their anchors and they lose the opportunity to continue to learn and grow. And if we continue to allow and give people these opportunities, we do see improved and increased confidence. We see better physical and mental health and strengthened relationships and belonging and independence and all these amazing things. So the impact is that we are changing and improving the quality of life for people. And so we're really excited that what we set out to do, we are doing. So I'm sorry, that's the phone again, sharing. So I'm going to actually, sorry, I'm getting a little distracted, but I'm going to switch our slide here now. And this is what we're finding in our evaluation, that our annual membership, people are saying 94% of our members are saying they feel like they have learned new things. That's such a beautiful thing. It's something that so many of us take for granted, and it's so important in our growth and development. 90% of people indicated that they feel that I'm actually can't see that on my screen. They feel more like they belong in this community. 92% feel that they belong in this community. 92% reported that they feel their overall life has improved because of their membership. What an incredible, incredible thing that 92% of people, their overall life has improved. So really, really exciting stuff. While we're sharing all these great things, we also need to share, well, I'm not quite at the challenges yet, but we also want to share that this is a continued effort for us. It isn't one and done. While we might not have the funds to continue working with the University of Maryland or a big institution or firm, we understand the value of collecting this data over time and what that will do. So not only because it has impact on our programming, but also it can help other people create their own versions of Main Street, or even just build their own community with quality programming. And so after moving to Main Street, we've asked people, we continue to ask our residents. This was a survey we just put out about a month or two ago, and I think we had 42 out of the 52 people that joined that were at Main Street and that reside at Main Street. And what they told us was that 80% of the residents with disabilities that live here have learned new skills because they're residents of Main Street. So they've improved the skills. You can see what they've improved on. I can tell you right here and now that my son is not one of those 80% that's in terms of cleaning. It's his apartment isn't always super clean, but nor is my house, so that's okay. But he and so many others have learned so many skills. One of the things my son is doing really well is managing his medications, and he has some severe medical challenges, and his meds are very important, and he takes them morning and evening, and there are no reminders from us. And it's really truly just watching him grow, and all the other residents and members here just building skills it's just been a really beautiful thing to witness and observe. 49% of our residents with disabilities do need more supports. They're having trouble with some roommate situations and trying to, and communication and social interaction. And this is something that we are continuing to provide through our programming, education around, so that we can continue to help people navigate living independently while new problems come up, new things arise. We had a power outage one night here. Nobody knew what to do. We had a fire alarm go off in the middle of the night when it was 22 degrees out, and people came downstairs and they didn't bring their fob or their shoes or their phone or their jacket. So we're continually assessing our members and our residents to say, okay, wow, this happened. This is real time. How are we going to do this? Let's create some education around it and send reminders to people too, because as you know, sometimes we learn skills and then we forget, or in our population of some folks with disabilities, it isn't one and done. It's a continuum. So we create series around it so that we keep reinforcing skills and providing reminders of important things that we need to do, like cleaning our apartment. Our survey also showed, which this is a really positive, I believe, and I'm one of these people because I did complete the survey, that we have a reduction in families' caregiving responsibilities after their family member moved to Main Street. That's a really big thing. I believe that I have 5 to 6 hours a week of responsibilities that I performed, or tasks that I performed with and for my son that I am not doing anymore. And 5 to 6 hours is a pretty big deal. It's pretty incredible. Challenges and learning, what we're learning. I'm going to do challenges real quick and then lesson learned, because I've been told I only have a couple more minutes here. So, because I want to give some time for Q&A. Here are the challenges. And again, you will get this deck, so you'll see the slides. The roommate issues are happening. They are real. We do receive information from parents that some pleas for help. And that's one thing that we really aren't doing, other than providing opportunities for people to come down and learn how to build and sustain relationships. We are not really providing much hands-on one-to-one, like we said, because that's not what we do. But we do have a couple professionals who do come in and work with roommates and help them create visuals around chores and schedules and communication, and that seems to be helping a lot. Another challenge, and I think Amy brought it up in when she was discussing some of the challenges that people were finding at Main Street. We did receive LIHTC, low income housing tax credits, to build this, and there are recertifications every year. And it is a very challenging process. We've spoken to the Secretary of Housing in the state of Maryland, and he's trying to help us through. And we did create a Zoom hour session around how can we help you with your recertifications. And actually someone from the state did join us, but it's tricky. It's a difficult process. Engaging residents and members without disabilities. We want to keep Main Street inclusive. We want other people to join us. Our membership currently has 66% of people with disabilities. Well, we want it to be more of 50-50 if that's possible. We want people to understand that we aren't just a space and a place for people with disabilities. We are a space and a place and a home for all. And that is sort of challenging the preconceived notions and mindsets that are out there. And it takes a while to change the way people think, and it takes a while to change culture, but we're in it for the long haul. A couple of things that we'd like to improve more on is helping people with these social interactions and relationships and physical health. So working through those. And then I'm just going to quickly lessons learned. If you are wanting to do something like a Main Street, build your community first and build your inclusive community first. I think we also have learned that this, as I refer to as the secret sauce housing community, they come together. We've had several people that lived elsewhere before they came to Main Street, and they weren't community. They were living independently, but didn't feel supported by community, didn't feel a part of community. Many have told me they spent a lot of time with their direct service provider or in their apartments playing video games, and they didn't feel a lot of purpose. So this housing and programming are really, they yin and yang. They're really important to have together. And I think that's actually why, and as you can see from our data, that's why people at Main Street are doing so well and enjoying their life. So a couple other things, right? Silver linings, COVID really, look, all our rooms are hybrid now. As I said, we have members from 12 different states who join us for programs here because we have this hybrid model, and some of our programs really are just virtual, and all of our rooms are Zoomed. And that was really a gift of COVID, I think, to allow us to connect to so many people and build community outside of just where we are. So COVID did a couple things to help. A big piece of Main Street that is, I believe, one of the reasons why we're so successful is with 52 adults with disabilities living here. come their families too and their parents. And as we provide education and discussions and gain feedback from our members and our residents, we also are learning from our families what people need and what our parents need. Being a caregiver for life is a lot. And I can tell you because I am one. And I need some nourishment and I need some education and I need to learn from other parents who have mentored me through this process. And so we created this, or we didn't, the parents created an MS circle, a Main Street circle. And that circle has really allowed people to, for people like me to have a place of belonging to my own space and for others to understand what I'm going through, and they really understand, and for me to support them and reinforce them and validate each other. And that MS circle is a closed sort of listserv, but we email each other for help with roommate issues or therapists or doctors or, what's great around the corner? Where can I get a good margarita? And boy, are those good too. I'm going to have one at like 3 o'clock today. Let's see, I have 2 minutes to get there. And collecting data and adapting as needed. Again, COVID has, I think, taught us all how important that is. So those are some of our lessons learned. I actually am thinking of a couple more as we're going through this, but we don't have time. So I am actually going to then end this amazing hour with you guys with a sibling perspective.
I think often people who have siblings with disabilities there's a good part of your life that you give up to support your sister, to support your parents, to support everything that has to happen. And Main Street took a lot of that burden off my shoulders. She is a much more effusive and communicative person now that she has a community around her. And I credit a lot of that to her happiness, and also she has something to talk about now. She has friends to talk about. She has activities she has to talk about. She just has a life that she really does want to share. For me, the biggest thing I think is just that Main Street has also just allowed me to be a sister again. I think the other thing that I've realized since becoming involved in Main Street is the community for myself. I had never met other people. And maybe I had met one or two other siblings previously, but until I went to, honestly, a dinner with siblings at Main Street, I never had fully met people who understood life like I understand life. I sometimes don't want to be as involved because it's Jess's spot and it's her place, and Jess has never had a place where, quite frankly, her parents have not been hovering there. Words cannot fully describe how impactful it has been for both Jess and also my family.
Pretty great, huh? Love that one. So I am going to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Actually, I'm going to let you see this slide and grab the QR code if you want it for a minute, and you can see our website and our email if you guys want to contact us. Just a reminder, July 7th at 2, we're going to do a deeper dive, and so we hope you guys will join us. And I am going to stop sharing my screen. And I do have a couple questions already, and I believe they're from the Q&A. And I'm also going to introduce Julie Ryan Silva, and I'm not going to do a huge introduction for Julie, but she's total badass. And she's coming on now. And let's see, I'm going to go through some of the Q&A, and then I'm going to let Julie ask some questions too. Where do we get our funding for our programs? That's a great question. We have several revenue streams here. One is that we do have a membership fee. We have financial aid for anyone in need. We have several people that use financial aid, but we do have our funding comes from the revenues from membership and lots of fundraising. And we're hoping to make this sustainable long-term, but we're fundraising, and we'll see. We'll let you know how that goes over the next couple of years. The second question is, do we have plans for more Main Streets? I'm just going to answer that with a yes. Our plans really are for you guys out there, all of you amazing people in this space, to get together and assess your community needs and see what listen to people and see people, and of course cherish people, but see what the needs are out there. And then you guys get together and give us a ring and we'll help you build your version of Main Street, whatever that looks like. As long as our pillars are inclusion, accessibility, and affordability, we're in. So you can ring us and let us know how you're doing. Julie, any other questions?
Yes, we have a question. Since we are a LIHTC funded project and we have outcome data, have you engaged and what response has your state housing and finance authority offered for future prioritization or expansion to meet the needs in Maryland?
Okay, can you guys hear me? Everybody can hear me? Okay, that's a great question. I'm having a hard time hearing it though from you, but I think I got most of it. And so, yes, our great state, we live in a great state of Maryland, and our Developmental Disability Administration, the Secretary Bernie Simons, is amazing and supportive, and they did give us a grant, as you saw in the beginning. Our governor also was very helpful, and our Department of Housing and Community Development, Secretary Ken Holt, amazing. They've all been out. They will continue to support us. They are asking when the next Main Street's going to happen. Additionally, a very, very huge advocate for Main Street is our county. Our county executive, Mark Elrich, and his team are really trying to help us look for additional spaces where we can find Main Streets. We can find spaces to build Main Streets. And our county council and folks in the city of Rockville, our mayor, have been very supportive in helping us with programmatic issues as well. So programmatic, supporting our programs through grants. So basically cha-ching is really helpful. So yes, I hope that answers your question. I'm going to mute now and let Julie ask another.
So I think we've been able to answer most of the questions in the chat. If we haven't gotten to your question, we will follow up afterwards. So we can wrap up here, and we're just really grateful for everyone who joined us today.
Great, thank you all for the presentation. It was fantastic information. And just hang on one second. Just have a couple slides to wrap up with. So just again, as a reminder, you will be receiving an email from Zoom with our survey link that Stephanie has been putting into the chat. Contact us at ntact-collab@uncc.edu if you have any questions. And as also Stephanie has been posting, you can find today's PowerPoint on the NTACT website. I also wanted to remind folks, and I know the Main Street presenters mentioned this, but on July 7th is part 2 of the presentation about Main Street. And you can register for that session on our website. Again, it's at transitionta.org, and go to the section for upcoming trainings. So again, thanks to everyone for your participation. We greatly appreciate it. And again, you can find us on our website at transitionta.org, or if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. So again, thank you, and thank you to the presenters for today's presentation.